Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to Centurion's Review, the punk rock band of Wargame Review Institutions. I know I said I wasn't going to buy any games for a while. Well, guess what? I couldn't control myself, so bought a bunch of games and some miniatures from my friend. Here's one of them. This is Goblin from Dwarf Star Games. This Dwarf Star Games, if I recall correctly, was a division of Heritage Games, and I guess for that reason, these people kind of seek these out. Here's the good news. You don't have to buy this. You can just go online and download most of the Dwarf Star games for free. I'll put a link to where you can download them in the description. So let's take a look through this. I actually had played Goblin. My friend had it years back. It's if I recall correctly, you play the Goblin or the Goblin side, and then the next game you play the human side, and so then you and your friend compare scores or something. I don't know. It's been a long time, but from what I remember, that's what happens. Goblin is a fantasy game of raiding and plunder for 2 players. Each player takes a turn playing the Goblin King, leading raiders into the peaceful valley, pillaging and burning. The other player maneuvers the farmers and the barons' troops in a desperate attempt to stave off the raids. The player who amasses the greatest amount of plunder as Goblin King before being killed in battle or deposed by his own goblins is the winner. Goblin is a lighthearted, freewheeling game with surprisingly subtle strategy. What I like about this is it isn't just a kind of, a lot of ancient games that are battles. It's kind of almost like a medieval or a ancient game, or I mean fantasy games that are like they're almost like a medieval or ancient game. This one, it's not like that. It's more like a raid, which is something you don't see as commonly, so that's kind of cool. Let's look inside at the components. It's been years since I've looked inside one of these. Alright, there's a rule book. Let's take a look at the counters. Counters look alright for, what is this, the 1980s? Does it say anywhere in here? Not sure if it doesn't look like it's got a copyright in there, but I assume it's early 1980s. See if they're double-sided. No, just single-sided, but that's okay. Yeah, I mean, they're alright for microgame counters from that period. And let's see what we have here. I guess here's where you record your confidence and your plunder and the game turn. And let's look at the... One thing I didn't like about Dwarf Star is these maps they had. They were a harder... cardboard, but as you can see they get all warped and stuff over time, but the map actually doesn't look bad for a map from back then. Actually, when I play this I may download the map from online and print it out because it'll be easier to deal with than to deal with this map that's curling up on itself. But yeah, it doesn't look bad for back then. It's got roads on it, a lot of terrain, rivers and so forth. Alright, let's look at the rules. How many pages of rules is this? I remember it was really easy to learn, 24 pages, and it's got a terrain key. Actually, it's a terrain key and a terrain effects chart all in one. Missile combat table, melee combat table, and morale table. And it looks like on the counters it's got a morale modifier followed by a command limitation and then an armor class. That's for the leader. And for the regular troops, it's got a morale class, missile value, and then a melee value and an armor class. And it's got some plunder counters and ruins and so forth. Alright, raid cycles. It's played in cycles, each representing one raid by the goblins into the feudal domain. Alright, the cycle or raid ends when the goblins return to their caves or are wiped out. If the goblin leader unit is killed, his confidence level reaches -8 or less. The raid cycle immediately ends as the goblins instantly panic and disappear. And then here's the game turns. It starts with goblin movement, followed by goblin combat, which has feudal missile attacks, goblin missile attacks, goblin melee attacks, feudal melee attacks, and then feudal movement, feudal combat, and then the game turn phase where you advance to the next turn. And let's go into more detail on the movement. Stacking limitations. Zones of control, that's good. Terrain effects on movement. And combat and melee combat and missile combat is explained in depth there. Terrain effects on combat. Those are all the modifiers. Are those on the back? They should have put those near the back too. Morale. And going over leaders and plunder. And the rating cycle. Goblin deployment. And confidence level, that's just for the campaign game. Victory in the raid version. The player accumulates the most victory points while king is the winner. Alright, victory points, you get +3 for destroying feudal count or baron leader units, +1 for other feudal leader units, -1 per goblin fighting unit destroyed, -2 per goblin leader destroyed, -10 if the goblin king leader unit is destroyed. Alright, and this got separate victory conditions for the campaign mode. Anyhow, just wanted to show you this. Like I said, you don't have to buy this, just go download it from that link I have there and try it out. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please click like on it. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel. Have a good evening.